it. There's a question up here, if we can bring a microphone.
My name is Kyle Clark. I'm here representing the Omaha Youth Advisory Council. What advice would you have for a forming nonprofit organization?
For forming a nonprofit organization? Well, I've always tried to avoid forming nonprofit organizations. But well, that would depend entirely on what I wanted to accomplish. I mean, it'd be one thing if it was a hospital. It could be another thing. There's so many types of it. So you've got to get people that are experienced and involved in an entity like that. And but it depends so much on the objective you're working at. Yeah, I promised this young lady here microphone for a long time.
Hi, my name is Kara Harbert, and I attend Millard West High School. And I understand that you're very civically involved, and I was wondering how important of a quality you think that is for an individual in life and why.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say that I am that. I mean, I do certain civic things. I think your model as a citizen, for example, in Omaha would be Walter Scott. I mean, he is far more civically involved than I am, and incidentally, his predecessor, Peter Kiewit, was too, but Walter's carried it to new heights. So I don't want to take on any mantle for that myself. I do some things. One of the problems I have is I love what I do so much that it sort of takes over. I mean, I'm like a guy that likes to play a lot of golf or something, except I like the business I'm in. But I've got a family that participates very actively. Some of my children work on almost anything that comes along in the civic area. And, in the end, people do what they want to do to quite a degree. And I think I've never talked to anybody that enjoyed working in civic activities that didn't feel where it was very worthwhile after they've done it. I mean, they've built something, and participating in building something is always a lot of fun. And actually, you can have a good time. We have this golf tournament, for example, in September, and we raise some money for civic things, but everybody has a good time, so nobody's paying any price by doing it. I'm having a good time. The people who come are having a good time, and we get to show Omaha off to people. But you should be enjoying things you go along, and you will if you work in civic activities that interest you. And you can do the same thing in politics. I mean, if you find political ideas or politicians who particularly you identify with, you can get a lot of self-satisfaction out of working, and you're doing something worthwhile. So just follow your instincts on that. That'd be my recommendation.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Graham from Millard South High School. We're probably the elite youth of today, and I have a question. What do you see as the biggest economic problem facing the youth of today going into the future?
Yeah, I don't think that you're going to have enormous economic problems. I think you will live in a society where the average person lives better by a significant margin than the average one of a generation earlier or two generations earlier. That's been the history of this country. It's a marvelous country that way. I mean, when you think of it, we have 4.5% of the world's population, and what's been accomplished here is incredible. 53% of the value of corporations that are publicly traded in the world exists in the United States with 4.5% of the population. This country always has done well. They say in stocks that you should buy stock in a business that's so good that even an idiot can run it, because sooner or later one will. And that's not terrible advice. Well, that seems to have been sort of the history of this country from time to time. I mean, we've had all these problems that have come along. If you look back on the last 100 years and list all the problems this country's run into, you can make a very long list. And a lot of people who focused on those problems at the time have missed the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that every generation lives better than the one before it. And that's because of savings, because savings enable people to create new tools to do better things as they go along. And it's also due to an environment that lets people realize their potential to a greater degree than most other environments in the world. It's far from perfect. I mean, it's sad how far it is from perfect, but it is better than anything else around. I mean, in this country, you don't have some commissar or something running a big business in this country. You've got a guy like Jack Welch, and a fellow like Jack Welch makes a difference of night and day in terms of the productivity of that business over a period of decades. And productivity is what causes the standard of living to rise. So a system that throws up the Jack Welches of the world to run businesses is going to have an enormous advantage over a society that does it by heredity or that does it by government edict. And we're closer to that society that I've described than any other country, and it's led to great things, and it will continue to lead to great things. So I think you've got the best future. You don't face a war, and you've got a better future in terms of achieving material rewards than any generation in history. So I wish I could trade you places. I might get taken up on that by a few of you, though.
Hi, I'm Ryan Wilkins from Millard West High School, and I was wondering if you could speak for Mr. Gates were afraid of the impact on Y2K on the economy, or specifically the stock market.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you gave me a chance to bring in other people, because I'm the last guy in the world to understand about Y2K. I don't know why this microphone's working. I don't know why lights go on. Or I flip on the switch of my television set and pray. I mean, it's all beyond me. But I would say this: the smartest people I know in that area, in large part, think it's going to be a non-event. In this country. I can't speak for the rest of the world, but so I think you'll wake up on January 1st and find the world hasn't changed from December 31st. Now, I would say this: you might get a whole bunch of friends to write you checks for $1 billion on December 31st and then deposit them, and who knows what'll happen? You can't lose anything. I mean, all they do is bounce, and if the system gets fouled up, you might find a lot of money in your account. But I wouldn't count on it. We own a company called Executive Jet. We have about 1,400 or 1,500 customers who own pieces of airplanes with us, and so we've got 160 of their planes and some of our own flying around. It'll be very interesting to me to see what the advance people let us know ahead of time when they want to use it. It'll be very interesting to see how many sign up for January 1st at 12:01, but it wouldn't bother me to fly them in the least on January 1st, or do anything else on January 1st. Ideally, I hope they're getting prepared to watch the Huskers play in the big game.
I'm Jamie Solis from Twin Valley, and I was wondering, how do you decide what you invest your time and money in?
Yeah, well, I like to find businesses that have good economics. Now, what are good economics? Well, good economics are a business that has some kind of a moat around it that makes its product or its service or its location or something a little more desirable to the customer than any other sort of comparable product. The #1 candy bar in the last 30 or 40 years has been Snickers. People don't fool around with different candy bars. They fool around with different length dresses. They fool around, with all kinds of things. But they don't fool around with candy bars because they figure, they're going to go in and lay out 50 cents or whatever it is and put it in their mouth. And they're not going to, for 50 cents and putting it in your mouth, I mean, you're not going to say, I'll lay out 45 cents and put something else in my mouth. So you find that very stable. And we like businesses that we think we can figure out where they're going to be in 10 or 15 years. I don't know where the information technology businesses are going to be in 10 or 15 years. I know where Snickers bars are going to be in 10 or 15 years. They're going to be selling just about the way they do now. I know where Wrigley's gum is going to be in 10 or 15 years. There's not going to be a lot of innovation in chewing gum. The internet's not going to cause people to quit chewing gum either. I mean, Gates may think so, but I don't think so. But its predictability regarding the sustainability of a competitive advantage, something special about a product. So we look for those kind of products, and then we look for people that are running the business that are honest.